Hello. Today, we're going to be talking about mindset. Mindset um, and close range interactions within the clinch range. And I think this will translate into everything else that you do. If you are training for any reason, whether it's self defense, whether it is you're um, dealing with conflict situations, dealing with confrontation, whatever it is, even in regular life, like if you are work in a workforce, um, and you want to learn to adjust your mindset, to not get walked all over. I think these things will help. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant today, and I'm going to show you some things and tell you some stories, some personal experiences about some things that are going to help illustrate my points. All right, so first of all, I think it is extremely important for anybody that is serious about learning how to deal with conflict situations, that they at least have a working knowledge of the close in fighting. Close in fighting, like uh, grappling, clinch work, and managing distance through striking. Um, at the very least, so that you can get to your primary means of self defense, which would be a firearm most likely. Creating the space necessary to get to your primary tools to end the threat. Now, I think too many people seem to think that one, having a firearm is deterrent enough. Having training with the firearm is all the training that you will need. And I can tell you that you are wrong. I believe you're wrong. Because there's more that, say, the striking and the grappling and the managing of range and the clinch work offer outside of the skills that they give you, with your hands and your body. And let me elaborate on this. If you're going to train these things, first of all, the requirements that I say that I think matter the most, if you're going to train those skills, is that you have to have actual live resistance from your training partners. No compliance, no like you can drill things so that you can get an idea of how to execute a move or a concept, but there needs to be a portion dedicated where there's live sparring, where both partners are going at a high percentage of effort against one another, so that you can see how the situation is going to dictate your ability to pull off that move. And same that's true whether it's grappling. That's true whether it's striking. You need to have that. You need that resistance, because if you have a compliant partner and they just lay there and they take it, or they only put up a half-hearted effort, or they're running from a script, look, that's not how real life is. And real people have a say. The enemy has a say, and they're not just going to let you, break the grip and walk away. They're not just going to let you do that. All right. So, um, find a if you're going to train in a way where you're training with people who give live resistance. Furthermore, you need to have an expert in those fields there to give you feedback. Looking up YouTube videos and then training with your brother is a terrible, terrible replacement for going to an actual gym, where you have multiple high level experts there and a range of students that range from almost high level expert down to novice, just starting. And you get to interact in your sparring, if you go there, with every level of that throughout the course of your training there, which means that you will deal with varying levels of difficulty throughout the course of the time period that you train in sparring. So that's useful. That's useful to learn what will work. Generally, in my experience, the more skilled people I'm defending mostly against. I'm not doing a whole lot of offense on them. I'm just trying to stay alive, which is good because it teaches me good defense. What you're going to find if you start doing these things is basically your first year in training them against skilled people, you're just surviving. You are literally just surviving. The first thing that really should happen is any illusions about your ability to handle a situation like that, if you've never trained in any type of hand-to-hand or grappling art or whatever, they're immediately going to be dispelled. If you think you're going to walk in there and just be able to see red and, body start dropping and, I don't know what happened, I just blacked out and then people died. No, if you think that's what you're going to be able to do, I challenge you, go into your nearest jiu-jitsu, MMA, kickboxing gym, and go into, don't challenge anybody, don't do anything. Go in there. They will usually give you a week or two free. Go to the advanced class and do the live sparring. Don't do it against people who have been doing it for 6 months or less. Do it against somebody that's been there a while. And you'll be able to do multiple people. And what you're going to find out is there's not a damn thing you can do against that person. That's what you're going to find out. I don't care what you think you can do if you have never done this before. It's an eye-opening experience when you walk into a place like that. The mat doesn't lie. It doesn't. It just doesn't. All right. So, but that's not really the point of what I'm trying to get to here. One, the humbling experience that you have when you go in there needs to happen. You need to go in there and realize, because what you learn through this is to remain humble. There's always somebody out there bigger, stronger, more skilled, and meaner than you. That's one thing that you will learn if you train these things on a regular basis. So stay humble. There's always somebody out there that can eat you. All right. So make sure you're getting that live resistance in there. Some other things it's going to teach you that are going to translate directly into your ability to survive high stress situations outside of, say, a grappling, a clinch, and or a striking experiences. It's going to teach you to breathe under stress. People have a tendency when they're under tremendous amounts of stress to hold their breath for some reason, and then their gas tank just goes away. So what this do, it forces you over time. You're not probably going to breathe very much if you've never done it before at first, and then you're going to gas out, and there's not really much you're going to be able to do at that point. But after you train for a while, you're going to learn how to breathe, when to breathe, how to frame your body, how to kind of use your body to produce leverage or to prevent somebody else from using leverage against you, to give yourself like space to breathe, and to continue to breathe at a normal respiration rate, to not let your heart rate get too out of control. That's really, really important, especially if you're trying to use fine motor skills. The more you breathe, the lower your heart rate is. The lower your heart rate is, the better your fine motor skills become. So, you want to use fine motor skills to be able to shoot accurately under stress. Well, a big component of that is keeping your heart rate under control. Right? So if you learn how to do that in a stressful situation on a mat, where you're regularly going against people who are probably better, stronger, bigger, or more skilled than you, you're inoculating yourself against that stress. And trust me, look, it's scary. If you've never done it before, and you're worried you're going to look like a fool or whatever, or maybe you're not worried about that and you have no idea and you just think you're all that in a bag of chips and you want to go just beat some people up, No matter what, go do it. But when you go do it, understand that you're not just learning a skill that deals with the specific situation at hand. That skill translates into every other aspect of your life. Excuse me. So the lower you keep your heart rate through breathing, the more your fine motor skills are going to be able to be utilized effectively and reliably. The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to be able to think. At first, you're going to think that there is absolutely no way to escape some of these things that are happening to you. And that's just because you don't know. You don't know how to defend yourself. You don't know how to, stop the Kimura trap. You don't know how to do the things that it seems that they are able to just effortlessly do on you. However, over time, you're going to start learning, oh, there are things I just didn't know. And as you learn to breathe, as you learn to position your body to give yourself the space necessary, as you learn all of these foundational things, you're going to start to learn that, hey, I'm thinking right now. I'm actually coming up with strategies in my mind on what I'm going to do next, and then next, and then next, and then 3 moves from now. And then it turns more into a chess match. Being able to have complex thought in the middle of, say, a grappling session, where you're planning your moves ahead and positioning, trying to get somebody into a position where you can execute your game plan, is fundamentally the same of luring an enemy into an ambush so that you can execute your game plan for the ambush. Being able to think under those stressors is the main thing that I think is important in this circumstance. Also, it's going to teach you how to lose. It's going to teach you how to lose. You will lose. You will fail. You absolutely will be in positions where you feel like you are helpless. And what does that build? It doesn't break you down. It builds resiliency. Because at least in these circumstances, you can tap out or the bell rings and it's all done. And then you can go back to the drawing board and go, what did I do wrong? All right. It forces you to evaluate your performance. And the more you lie to yourself, the worse you will do next time. So it forces you to live in reality. It forces you to critically think and realistically assess what it is that you are and are not able to do when you go in there and you train one of these hard skills. Because if you lie to yourself and you tell yourself, oh, the reason why I got tapped out was because of X. Okay, that ain't going to help you next time. You're still going to get tapped out. You're still going to get choked. You're still going to get knocked out. But if you go in there and you go, look, I got choked out because I gave my back because I let the hook get in too early. I thought I'd get out of it. I couldn't. So that means that in the future, I need to make sure that I strip that hook before I move my hips or whatever it is. But you have to be completely honest with y'all. And that is super crucial, because if you're going to be working in a permissive environment that is kinetic, you have got to be brutally honest with yourself and your teammates, and not get offended about it. You're going to turn yourself into a professional through your own training. So being able to honestly assess yourself, I like the martial arts aspect to that, because it disciplines your mind in a way that you can't fake. If you have live resistance against skilled practitioners on a regular basis, you cannot fake your way out of that. You can't demonstrate. You can't break a board out of that. Either it works or it doesn't work. And either you can defend it or you can't defend it. Either you can execute it or you can't execute it. And you have to get better at your technique. You have to get better cardiovascular capability. You have to get your breathing under control. You have to be able to think under stress. All of those things have to happen. before you get to a point where you have some level of competency. So that's one of the other benefits that it gives you. It also teaches you how to take a punch or to, be in uncomfortable situations where you've got some dude that outweighs you by 60 or 70 pounds, putting all their weight on top of you, sweating on you. Yeah, it's not comfortable. It's not great. However, it may save your life. It teaches you you're not made out of glass. It teaches you that if I am more skilled, I can mitigate a lot of the size advantage or strength advantage. If I am more, and this is particularly important for women to understand. For instance, my wife and I both train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Last night, we have some mats down here in the basement, and her and I trained for maybe an hour and 15 minutes. And it was a good roll. My toes got jacked up from posting and sprawling. And she's very good. All things considered, she weighs about 50 pounds less than I do. But she's still very skilled. She's got good top pressure. But unfortunately, all things being equal, our skill levels, depending on in her game, she is definitely better than me at what she does well in jiu-jitsu. But we have complementary strengths. So she's really good at the top game. I'm really good at the bottom game. And so it's a chess match. And I was able to basically neutralize everything that she was trying to do to me. But I really had to try on several instances. And I'm not bad at jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm okay. I'm not great. But against 99% of people, against people who don't train, it would look like I had superpowers. But against somebody that trains, they would look at me and they go, "Yeah, you've been training about 5 years." I could tell that because I've been training about 5 years. And 5 years in jiu-jitsu, it's a pretty good competency level when it comes to grappling. It's definitely not black belt level, but it's definitely noticeable. And my wife's been training just slightly less than I have, maybe 4.5 years. And so, I need to be hard against her, as a skilled practitioner, so that she can perfect her game. And the great thing is I am confident that she can handle about 85 to 90% of physical altercations all on her own. And if she deals with a guy that's 6'2" or more, and outweighs her by about 60 or 70 pounds, it would be a problem for her. But outside of that, if they don't train in grappling, her skill, I think, would be enough to not get her to defeat that person. It would be enough to get her to create the room necessary so she could defeat that person with a weapon, which is what we train. She can create the space necessary. She can take the hit. She can think under pressure. And that is good for, we do what we say. So, I make these videos and I talk to you guys about, not just my experience, and my ideas and things that I think might help you to be better prepared in life. But I do it too. I train the grappling. I train the CQB. I teach others physically how to do it, both professionally and as a volunteer. These skills will teach you are stronger than you think. But you could only get stronger by going into the fire. Just like making a weapon, a sword, a knife, whatever. You have to go into the heat and then get pulled out and get beat on. That's the only way you make a hard sword. You can't harden that steel without that process. Sometimes you got to do it several times. But you have to go in the fire and you have to get beat on. And it's the same process for your physical ability and your mental ability. You don't just rise to an occasion under massive amounts of stress. You fall back on the training, the lowest level of training that you have had. So if you are only doing firearms training and you expect to do close quarters combat, you are going to fail at some point, because at some point if you are expecting to go into a CQB environment, CQB is essentially 50 meters or less. Close quarters battle, close quarters combat. Don't you think at those engagement ranges, you may find yourself in a situation where you're within clinch range? Especially if you're clearing buildings, I can guarantee you that will happen if you do it enough. It just will. So why wouldn't you not just practically train in things that can give you the advantage to create the space necessary, but will give you the mental edge because you're comfortable with it? See, here's what all of this does. Learning how to take a punch or to get choked out and to tap out learns that you are more comfortable with confrontation. It's not a big bad mystery or boogeyman. And I'm not saying like it makes you better at confrontation. It probably does make you better at confrontation. But you strip away the dead wood of your personality. See, a lot of people go out in the world and they put on this image of that they are, more proficient, more knowledgeable, and better than they actually are. And they're not really sure if they are as tough as they think they are. So they have to challenge anybody that would challenge their idea of themselves. That's called posturing. Well, posturing is not good. And when you start training these types of things, you can see it for what it is. A posturing mechanism is nothing more than something that will get you killed in a combat environment. And there's plenty of dead Iraqis and Afghanis that were posturing, very brave, but posturing to show that they were willing to step into the arena, and they went against trained guys like me, and they did not survive the encounter. So the same thing can apply in the civilian context. You see it all the time. Anytime you go to a bar or club or, wherever, you will see particularly young men posturing, talking smack, getting big, getting in each other's faces. That's all insecurity. That's what that is. It's all insecurity. It is all posturing. They're really hoping the other person backs down by showing how big and tough and strong they are. And that may have been you at some point, and maybe you now. What this will offer you is one, you won't have a need to posture. You won't have a need to prove anything to anybody. If I go to a club or a fight or whatever, which I don't really go to those things anymore, but if I happen to, and some belligerent got in my face and challenged my masculinity, is it worth going to jail over? Is it worth fighting over? Is it worth embarrassing this guy over? Is it worth risking creating a scenario that if they get embarrassed, they don't come back and try and blow me away? Like, it's not worth it. And I don't have anything to prove to that guy, because I prove it every day against people who are actually trained, right? These skills are reserved for life and death situations. So what it does is it helps teach you how to make sure that you don't turn a minuscule altercation into a life or death situation. And in the event that it is a life or death situation, you are equipped with the tools necessary to give you the best odds at surviving that altercation. Now, there's no guarantees. There are no guarantees, but it increases your odds. All right. I would urge you also, excuse me, if there are competitions available in those arts that you're training or you plan on training, to go, to compete. Now, winning is always fun. It's great. But the competing is about the closest you're, especially if you've never competed before and you're getting out there and it's like an actual fight or a tournament, a jiu-jitsu tournament, wrestling, whatever. If you've never done it before, when you go out onto that mat and that timer goes off, that adrenaline dump is about the closest thing you're going to get that mimics what you will experience under a life or death situation in a kinetic environment. That's about the closest you're going to get. You're going to be amped. You're going to get tunnel vision. And if you've never done it before, you're going to be all over the place. For me, I compete predominantly to further control that. Even with all my experience that I have in the military and time down range, I still do it because it keeps me focused. It teaches, I still have to utilize the skill of remaining mission focused to do my job, to execute my game plan, to slow my breathing, slow my heart rate, so I don't shoot my wad. Because what usually happens, particularly with new people, and particularly with people who aren't necessarily used to adrenaline dumps, is that they go all out for like the first 30 seconds. And then they realize, holy crap, I didn't breathe at all in that first 30 seconds. And I've still got 4.5 minutes to go in this match. That's a long time to be fighting with somebody, or however long the fight is. That is the safest, and it's also a very effective way to learn how to push through that. I'll give you an example. My very first jiu-jitsu tournament that I competed against, or that I competed in when I was a white belt. I've been training maybe 3 or 4 months, not that long. And the way that the tournament's set up, you got to go. They have tape on the floor for brackets, right? And you go in and you line up on your portion of the floor where you're supposed to line up, and they bring everybody out, and you're all going to compete on that map. And I remember walking up, and I was they have it separated by weight classes and age. And I'm walking up, and I see this guy standing in line, and I'm like thinking to myself, man, I hope that guy's not in my weight class, because that dude is huge. And he was definitely huge. So we're waiting. We're there like 20 minutes, where everybody's got the pre-fight jitters and you're shaking, we're trying to get in the zone, whatever. And I was first one up, and that was the dude I had to go against. The guy outweighed me by he cut about 20 pounds, and I was low for my weight class. I wasn't trying to cut weight or be disciplined about it or anything. So there was, on the day of competition, there was about a 30-pound weight difference between him and I, at least 30 pounds. And my coach, I had wrestling background from when I was in high school. And so, I knew a bit about wrestling. I did it for a couple years. And I had limited, combatives experience in the Army. I had done a couple courses on combatives, but it's a different beast in jiu-jitsu. So my coach looks at me and he goes, you take him down and you just do everything you can to hold him there. And I'm amped, and I'm going, okay, whoever gets the takedown is going to win this match. And I got the takedown right off the bat. Got him a good single. Was in his guard for a long time. He had a good guard. And I was literally it was like trying to hold down a 300-pound boar by yourself. I mean, that's what this guy felt like. If you understand that reference, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't know how somehow I advanced my position. I got around his guard, got into side control, but I overcommitted. He rolled me over and then got into the mount. And I knew if he consolidated on top of me like that, I was screwed. Um, and I didn't know, like, I only knew like one or two techniques on how to get somebody out of mount. Um, I just knew that I had to do something to get him off of me, or it was done. And I found a way. I found a way to get back into his guard, and I ended up beating him by a point. Now, the important thing is not that I beat the guy. The important thing is it was a gut check. It was immediately sizing up the person that you're going to go against and understanding I have a limitation against this person. So I have got to utilize my advantage while I can use it. And if I lose that advantage, I can't lay down. The gut check component of that really comes out in competitions. That's the type of gut check that you are going to experience if you ever have to do a movement under fire where you're bounding 300, 400, 500 meters and you're puking while you're moving because that's how exhausted and out of breath you are while you're having to fight the enemy. Again, that's the closest that I have found to the stressors on the body and the mind to mimic my experiences in combat. They're not the same. They're not at the same level. But that's about the closest I've gotten. You're going against a living, breathing human that is thinking, that is about at your skill level. And, they may be the same size or bigger than you. That is the value in learning to do those things. Yes, you pick up the skills, but you pick up so much more. So I'll do a real quick to show you that I put my money where my mouth is. Those are some of the medals that my wife and I have won over the years training in jiu-jitsu. And again, we're not like, she's more serious about the competition aspect than I am. I do it more for practicality and to put another tool in my tool bag. But it's good to go out and validate the system and make sure that, when I'm not being crazy or I'm not making this up. So please, if you have questions, please ask questions. If there are subjects you would like me to cover, put those in the comments, please. I am an open book. I will literally talk about anything. So with that being said, I hope this was helpful to you. Get out there and train. All right, get out there and train. The fighter's mindset is, even if you never use grappling or clinch work or striking in a combat situation, the mentality you need to adopt to be willing to do it is absolutely essential. It's helpful. It helps. So get out there and train. Find a way. I hope you guys get out there and kill it. It's almost a new year. And start this new year building your skill set. Take care.